Welcome to the Catholic Schools Athletic Association podcast. I'm your host, Teague Ridge, and today we have a very special episode as we celebrate the 75th Toy Bowl football championships. What an incredible milestone here in Louisville's rich history, tradition of youth sports. Joining me are three remarkable guests who have each played a pivotal role in shaping and supporting the Toy Bowls over the years. Rick Arnold, who's the director of the CSAA, Thom Wachtel, who's the football director of the CSAA for 25 years now, and then legendary coach with deep community roots is Mr. David Schneidtmiller. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Teague.
All right, so Thom, I think here's what I want to start into. Let's dive into a little bit of history. So we were talking a little bit off air. So the very first Toy Bowl was 1949, correct?
Correct, 1949.
And Thom, where was that one at?
I'm not that old, but I believe it was Holy Family.
That was Holy Family.
Nope.
No, Holy Name.
Uh-oh.
Let me correct you. 1949, the first Toy Bowl championship was played at Maxwell Field, the old male high school field.
How about that? All right, we're learning something right out the gate here.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, in 1964, we had it at the fairgrounds, right, Thom?
Yes.
So in 1964, they brought in a bunch of dirt.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at Rick's notes. Rick has great notes here.
So sorry to interrupt.
That's
interject
okay.
here. In 1950, the second Toy Bowl was held at Parkway Field. So it went from Maxwell Field at Male in 49, the first Toy Bowl, to the second Toy Bowl at Parkway Field, and then in 1958, it went to Freedom Hall.
1958. Now, when it went to Freedom Hall, what I'm told, and I think this is a cool story. So they bring in a bunch of dirt, they paint it green. How do you do the lines if they did that? They just paint white lines over top of it?
Painted white lines. But back then, and you correct me there, the Schmidt family
Did it all.
handed out the uniforms before the game. I mean, they owned, the CSAA owned the uniforms for all the games.
Oh, okay.
So
when they rolled around in this green dirt, they walked out of there. Both teams were probably green. I would assume there,
they
Thom.
were both green.
My understanding is that the dirt was brought in, they painted it green, and then they chalked, like the old chalk like
right.
you see on these fields. It was a chalk line, and that would get scattered about, just like paint would. And the Schmidt family did all of it. They painted the fields. They
were the refs.
Yeah.
Mr. Schmidt started the KFOA, the Kentucky Football Officials Association.
All right, so let's back up here a little bit. So, any idea who had the very first idea of starting the Toy Bowl? Where this all came from?
Yeah, I can give you a little history on that too, Teague. In 1946, fellow John Bancroft. Again, these are pastors and priests way before my time, but they drew up what would become known as the first constitution for the Catholic School Athletic Association. And then in 1949, which was 3 years later, in those first few years, they had track and baseball and basketball. And then in 1949, Father Martin Moore was selected to serve as the first chairman of the Toy Bowl championships. And then that was played at Maxwell Field, which was Old Male High School. I'm sure they had to rent that back in those days, especially because it was a parochial school championship at a public school facility. But it was probably the best one in town.
Okay. So here's what I'm trying to kind of envision. So the schools are all getting together. Obviously, at that point, Thom, and I think we mentioned this as well, the priests were involved, right? There was probably a priest director at that point. I think you were just the second lay director of CSAA football, correct?
Mike Potter was. I took over for Mike Potter,
who was the first lay director.
And then I believe it was Father Riley.
I think that's right. Tom.
Yeah, he was the football director.
Okay.
Carl Schmidt was the director, and then
executive director was Carl Schmidt.
Director, yeah.
So, all right, what's evolved over time here? Obviously, we're not playing, green dirt anymore with chalk lines. These football, these Toy Bowl championships are played at St. X and Trinity, which obviously have amazing facilities. In your all's opinions, what's evolved from kind of day one till now?
Well, I think big involvement was the eighth grade's always been at Trinity. It's been at Trinity for oh my gosh.
And Rick, there's a reason for that, right?
1971. It started at Trinity in 1971.
And there's a reason the eighth grade's at Trinity and it doesn't go back and forth.
Well, it started there in 1971. They've been hosting it since 1971.
There you go.
It's become the norm host.
At that time, we couldn't get St. X
They
because
didn't have their own field.
They didn't have their own field.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So was the athletic director over there. He was, that was his precious ground, and we never could play practice games or anything there. But years later, and I don't have the exact years, but we moved it to St. X because our crowds got too big for our grade school fields. Yeah. One of our best grade school fields, St. Rita, they've been begging to have it back. We just can't park it.
Yep.
I mean, you can't park regular season games there. Yep. It's hard right now.
You're talking about 5th and 6th grade.
5th, 6th grade, yeah. And so it's probably been, I forget when we moved it to St. X, but.
Probably shortly after they opened their stadium.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, well, it was before that because we had it at Holy Cross for a couple of years.
Okay.
While they were building their stadium. Holy Cross hosted a couple of Toy Bowls.
Yeah, because they used to rotate to all of grade school fields.
Right. Because I played
year.
one at Resurrection.
Okay.
Rock Quarry.
Yeah, Rock Quarry. And then Wayne Johnson ran Guardian Angel. We had it over there one year. So we distributed amongst the fields. And, of course, St. Rita is probably one of our probably our best field. And we had it there a couple of times. But the crowd just got too big. And parking grandma and grandpa over at Southern High School and trying to get them across Preston Highway would be too hard.
So, Tom and Teague, let me interject here. It looks like, again, our staff in the office has done a ton of research. And, look, there are people from our office that I've consulted with. Jim Frame, who was a legend. You talk about a legendary executive director. He was the director for 39 years, and from the time Mr. Schmidt retired until the time he retired and I started. But I consulted with Jim Frame and Julie Sattel, who worked in our office for 44 years. They're true legends. Maybe outside of Mr. Schmidt and his family, the biggest legends that will ever come around this.
Yeah, Dottie,
This and Dottie too. Just the number of years they put in. But in consulting with Julie and Jim about some of this, I was able to confirm some things we found in some old notes and some old archives. But the first 6th grade Toy Bowl was in 1966. So the 8th grade Toy Bowl was, predated by about 15 years.
Who played in that?
So.
66. Was it St. Lawrence? Oh, that's right.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, sorry.
There you go, Tom. I like it. Well, Dave, let's get to you here. So we found out that you have coached in 13 Toy Bowls, if we're not mistaken. I played for you over at Ascension. I probably hold the record of being one of your worst players ever, but I was a golfer, baseball kid trying to play football. But you've been around the game forever. What's some of your most memorable moments?
During the week of Toy Bowl, just the pride in all the schools. And then on the Friday before, they'd have the pep rally. All the kids can go through and get introduced and run out in front of all their classmates. And then when the guys got the parade to go to the fields, just the excitement that your parish had.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't you guys? I remember you guys taking a limousine one year. I mean, you guys have done it all.
We didn't do that on 8th grade. I think the 6th grade did.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right.
Well, I've said for years, the best games of the year are the semifinals.
Yeah.
It's because you win the semifinals, you're going to the Toy Bowl. That means a week you get to wear your jerseys to school.
Oh yeah.
You have bonfires. It's the best game. Back when I took over, we had 36.
I was going to say you had 30-some teams, 3 divisions,
right.
8 to 10 teams in each one. So only the top 4 were able to play off to go, and everybody else was done.
Right.
So you always wanted to go to get to Toy Bowl.
Yeah.
So both you, Dave, Tom, you guys have both coached quite a bit of CSAA football in your time. What has coaching in the CSAA umbrella meant to you guys?
Well, I always took it as an extension of your faith and your sacrifice for your church, and you're more of a minister in that part of it because. It was really neat for these kids, and this is me growing up too, is my basketball coach is a lector. Mm-hmm. My football coach sits in the second row. Mm-hmm. I get to see these people in church and everything. That's a little bit of it. And of course, football's a big part of it too. So, you want to
love the sport.
Love the sport.
Dave, how would you answer that?
I would say a lot like Tom. I thought it was my stewardship back to the school and the church, and then it was always so much fun to watch the development of the kids get better during the year, and just the school, the pride thing. You play here, everybody knows you, and You're able to look down and watch the next group come up, and you know everybody's names because your kids are one of their classes usually. But it was exciting, and you look forward to it every year.
Did you ever coach any football, Rick?
Yeah, I helped coach Steve Spears and those guys at Ascension for a couple years, but I was a mule. I fixed helmets and chased water and just was kind of the extra coach to do whatever they needed.
You know what, though? I found coaching football, and I only coached at the flag level, but I found it so much fun. When you put a play in and it works to perfection, and these kids just light up and they're in the end zone, and I just, to me, there's really not a whole lot that tops that. I mean, it's pretty cool just the X's and the O's and putting a game plan together. I always really enjoyed kind of coaching from that aspect. I mean, football's fun to coach.
See, look, and these guys are legends, right? I'm just a football fan, but the years I coached, my son wasn't playing. So if he was playing fourth, I was coaching sixth because for the reason you say. And again, it was just because they needed an extra adult to help. So these legends of football, and let me add this. Coach Schneidtmiller, Coach Wachtel are here, but I try to go through and create a list of some of the legendary football coaches in my memory. Fortunately, I still remember a lot of these guys, from the Maupins at St. Pius and the Medleys, and I could go on and on and on. My coach, Coach Huber at St. Martha, but I could name those three names. I could name 30 more, and I'd still be missing 30. And then let me add this because I think this is really important. The best coaches I ever had as a human being, as an athlete, as a young athlete, and even as an older athlete, and then I'm talking about through baseball and high school and college and beyond, the best coaches I ever had at any sport were my grade school football coaches at St. Martha, and they're going to honor Coach Larry Huber over at St. Martha this year, and that's really cool. They're going to do some dedication stuff for him, and I think there's some things like that'll be coming in the future for some of these guys. I would hope Ascension would recognize David at some point more so than they have, and on and on. And I know Pius has done some of it. I think that these coaches that believe in the stewardship, believe in the faith-based part of it, are the best coaches of all time. And if they were not electricians or carpenters or doctors or lawyers or sales reps or whatever they do for a profession, if they had gone into teaching, they'd be the best high school coaches in the state as well. And there's not a doubt in my mind. Many, many of them. All
right, so this is the 75th anniversary. So I think we'd be remiss if we don't add some of these names in. I mean, Dave, Tom, I know you guys got a ton of them. I think of Bubba Bowling, right? Who Mary Beth is the superintendent of Catholic schools now. I mean, so just there's so many connections. It runs deep. What names come to mind when we start talking about the tradition of the Toy Bowl?
Well, we started off, Dave and I, before we got started, we talked about Joe Medley. And then, of course, I had coaches at St. Lawrence, Jim Baird, Jim Mayhair, Norm, and they left and went to Jim Baird went to Bernard.
Yeah.
And Jim Mayhair went over to Floyd Central over in Indiana.
Okay.
They just moved, but that was a lot of the, and I can keep going on. Paulie Miller, who coached Flagey for years, his sons were at Lourdes.
Yes.
What was it?
Gary
and
David, Johnny.
Yeah, there was a bunch of them. They were at Lourdes. So, and then, of course, Butch Kripe and Ronnie Troutman, they were at St. Lawrence for years. Butch was a high school. He coached Fairdale and a bunch of and he was there. And, I can go on. But now I'm a South End guy, so I got a lot of the South End people.
I remember when Mike Wagner's got in, started practice. At St. Patrick's, started all that.
But he was at Margaret Mary for a long time.
Yeah, he was at Margaret Mary.
He was at Margaret Mary for a long time, but I'll never forget because I was the football director at that time for some reason. I guess it's been a while. But he had 34 kids on his 5th to 6th grade team. Mm-hmm. And Rick gives me the list of how many kids he only has 34 in the whole school.
Oh, wow.
Everybody played.
And I said, and I went up to him, I said, how did you get every kid to play? And he goes, well, I didn't. I said, what do you mean? He says, one kid's a CCD kid. One kid, the whole school couldn't play.
Unbelievable.
But Mike is, he was a big name. He was at Margaret Mary.
He was at Margaret Mary, then he started the Patrick program, right? But he was at Margaret Mary for a long time.
Yeah.
Let me throw a couple other names in there, too.
Please.
And again,
we're going to miss all kinds of people.
We're going to miss all kinds, but here's some that just off a quick recollection: Dave Secor, Johnny Carrero. They mentioned Butch Kripe and Ronnie Troutman. Of course, Mike Miners at St. Patrick was a long time, many Toy Bowl appearances and wins. Chris Botner, Paul Passafume, Mark Ruther. I mean, from 6th grade to 8th grade, we can go on and on. I mean, I know Freddie Nix, Denny Fowler. They're just names that we could mention.
The Hennessy's coach for a long time.
Yeah, Allen.
I mean, obviously Coach Mop, and they're just. And I know, like I said, we've missed many names, but. It's just it really gives me chills to think about all the guys through the years that have mentored these kids, all of these kids in our Catholic schools.
Well, and
Oscar Braum.
There you go, Oscar Braum. I mean, he's still doing it on the Trinity sidelines right now. Dave, who was the coach you never wanted to go against?
No one.
Yeah, there was a lot of them.
He didn't care.
Yeah, there was a lot of them. That was before the seasons even start. You know who's going to be good,
right?
Because of the guys that are
who's got the horses.
Yeah,
sure.
the guys that are coaching, and Patrick was always going to be good.
Who was coaching then?
Well, both Wagner and Miners.
Okay,
they were all going to be tough. Holy Spirit was going to be good usually. Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
Agnes had good teams back then.
Bernard. Yeah, Agnes. Yep.
Bernard.
Paul
yeah.
Passafume.
Martha.
Yeah, Martha.
Right.
But we didn't. Since there was a couple of divisions, you didn't get to go against everyone all the time.
Right.
So, but
because at that time,
Edwards.
Gabriel was our biggest school.
Yeah.
Biggest school, but when we started having all those mergers, they started going down to the single A. Because they were by themselves.
So listen, to me, and I want to get you guys' opinion on this. This is one of the biggest differences from kind of when things started till today, is football has changed tremendously as far as the number of kids who participate. Now we have these mergers. I know for Central Catholic, for example, I think there's 9 teams in that conglomerate that make up that team. And they still are having trouble with numbers and putting kids out there on the field.
There was a lot of smaller schools
that make that up.
Yeah, and then but they should have more.
But back in the day, even the smaller schools could field their own teams.
Yes.
And that changed a little bit because wearing St. Raphael, Martha, Ascension on your chest is a little bit different than Central Catholic or whatever it may be.
Totally agree.
And I think that has changed the game a little bit. I tell you what, though, man, you walk up and down the sidelines of St. X and Trinity, there's a lot of kids out there. There's a lot of kids that play football. So let me ask you guys this. How much has the Optimist Leagues affected what CSAA does or doesn't do?
Honestly, I don't think it has any bearing on us. In the concussion awareness in the NFL and all that stuff that's brought up hurt us more than anything.
Yeah.
Understood.
It just hurt us. And then COVID came, and then things just kept piling up. And I'm going to say this, and people are going to. Football has never been safer now than it's ever been.
Than it is now.
Yes.
Our equipment is better. Our coaching is better. Our coaching technique is better. Training, everything.
Everybody has to go through that USA heads up training.
Right. Now, all the coaches we've kind of backed off on a little bit because they've...
Most of them have it.
Yeah, most of them have it. So, football's never been safer, and the equipment's never been better. Coaching, training has never been better than right now. So...
Well, I don't know if you look at, coaches that I don't know if he's still coaching, Rick, and his name's escaping me, but I know a guy that played in the NFL was Mary's coach.
Yeah, Dean Wells.
Dean Wells, yeah. Listen, you got guys that really know what they're doing out there.
Will Wolford, before he went to St. X, he was at Holy
Trinity.
Holy Trinity.
Yeah, he was at Holy Trinity. Coaching, back when I was, back years ago when we had 30 teams, I would put some of our coaching staffs up there with the high school staffs.
Oh, guarantee it.
Some of our staffs were just amazing.
Yeah.
So, like I'm going to go back to the South End. You had guys like Butch Kriper, Ronnie Troutman, and the Narts. Jimbo Nart played for U of L.
Dave had some staffs that were pretty stout. They had a lot of guys that knew what they were doing.
Right. Everybody did. We all had the... I can't think of the Freddie Nix out there, and gosh darn, I can't remember the name, but they were at Holy Trinity, and big old guy, was a beer distributor, but he played at U of L. and his staff was
a lot of experience.
A lot of experience.
So, what do we have planned, being that it's the 75th, Rick? What do we have planned for this year? How are we going to honor this Toy Bowl?
Well, look, that's another challenge because we're in the process of working on that every day right now, and ultimately, look, this is one, right? We're doing
this is a big part.
75th Toy Bowl podcast, which I hope everyone will listen to, and again, forgive us for if the names we've left off, and that's inevitable. But even honoring people at the Toy Bowl is hard because you're going to leave some people out. It's just impossible to recognize everybody. So we've got a few things planned. There's obviously people like Thom Wachtel and his assistant Wayne Johnson, who we have a tremendous debt of gratitude for all their years of service. And I've heard people call Wayne the heat policeman. I've heard him call him the old guy in the corner. Like Wayne does a little bit of everything, and he does what Tom wants. He does what he needs to do, and he's always there, and he's been a huge help. And I think at the end of the day, you've got to recognize people at the Toy Bowl that need to be recognized. And so the Mike Potters of the world, we certainly want to bring him up today and recognize him. And the Schmidt family's always at the Toy Bowl, right? They come in the Carl and Helen Schmidt trophy is the 8th grade trophy, and
pretty cool how the whole family comes out and presents the trophy. Pretty awesome.
We've named the one of them after Jim Frame, which is fantastic, and we've got the Joe Reber Trophy on the 6th grade side, which we do at St. Excellence that Saturday morning. So, and his grandson comes and some of his family members, and that's really cool. So, for the 75th, look, we're doing some things where we've got special helmet stickers on every helmet. Every kid and every team is supposed to have a 75th sticker on their helmet, which you're familiar with, and Tom distributed, and so we're doing that to kind of push it. We're gonna have some special announcements. We're gonna work on some videos. You're gonna do a video for us for the video board over Trinity for the 8th grade Toy Bowl, and we're going to have a special layout in the program of the history, and some of those are some of the bullet points I just read off about the 1949, the start of it and so forth. And Tom's helping us with that, and like I said, Julie Chattel and Jim Frame have been a huge help with me on that, and Will Harrison in our office. We're putting together some things like that. We're going to do some special pullovers for our board members and our staff that'll have the logo. So we certainly want to recognize as many people that come out on that Saturday and Sunday as we can, because it won't be the 75th anniversary of the 6th grade, but it's all one big celebration for us. So, the 75th anniversary and the pageantry David mentioned, the week of the Toy Bowl and wearing your jerseys and your peers, your classmates recognize you. I mean, that's a big deal. And when St. Martha, when I played the Toy Bowl in my 7th grade year at St. Martha, we had the biggest bonfire I'd ever seen in my life, and maybe to this day, the whole doggone softball field.
It's still.
I mean, it was shooting above. There was a ladies' center behind there, and I mean this bonfire was huge, and they called our names out. We ran, and the girls thought it was cool, and we thought it was cool, and our parents thought it was cool, and I mean they had they were celebrating. The parents had the concession stand open, and they were having a good time, and it was fun. Like those are memories that last forever. And I met with Rob Mullen over at Trinity when I first started this job, and he came to me, and he actually came to our office, and Jim Frame was still the director, and I was kind of shadowing him for a few months before I took over completely. And Rob Mullen walked in, and he said, "Look," he said, "whatever you need, we will deliver." He said, "We will deliver." There was an issue with some temporary goalposts when we used to have the 70-yard fields.
Yeah, that's right.
The temporary goalposts had gotten lost and are dismantled, and not some poles were missing, and there was some concern at Trinity about how we were going to make this happen. And Rob Mullen said, "We'll order them. We'll have them here, whatever it takes." He goes, I have a 7th grade son that wasn't a great football player, but he has that memory to this day.
Yeah,
and he's an adult at the time, but he said, my 7th grade son, that's one of his greatest memories. He said, whether you're a superstar or just another player on the roster, you remember it. So I think that kind of sums it up. It summed it up for me. Like that was one of the first things I heard as a director was this president of a high school, the host high school of the games, and he said the same thing. And I did with Will Wilford over at St. X, and he said the same thing.
Yeah.
Whatever you need. So these guys, they care, and it matters, and everyone realizes what it means to our kids. So I think that's the coolest part of it all. And I think we want to during the game have this was Tom's brainchild, but we want to have people that have played or participated in Toy Bowls to stand up during the game. We want to recognize them. Of course,
that's
we
a cool
can't.
Idea.
We don't have everybody's names, but
the whole thing is we try to start thinking of names. We're gonna leave y'all somebody,
right?
I mean,
for sure.
We've left out so many.
Plenty.
So, but we were thinking, okay, if you ever coached or played in the Toy Bowls, just stand up and be recognized.
That's cool.
And then, of course, at Trinity, they've got the camera, and they
can
stand up there and see people, and we can, I hate to say yell out or something, but we can say what years, find out the years. or just say if you played in the 60 through 69, stand up.
I'm glad you guys say that. I think we need to make a push to make sure that people that have ever had experience at Toy Bowl, whether they know a kid playing, whether they have anything to do with this year's Toy Bowl, come out, get recognized, be there, help us celebrate the 75th. Right. I think that's a great thing. Yeah. That's really cool.
That's what we want to do. We want, again, if it's a 2-minute, just
maybe we figure out how to bring them all on the field or something, Tom.
Yeah. Or if we had I don't know. We're still thinking about
figuring out the details.
If we had a wireless microphone that a couple of them and have people go up there and say, "Who'd you play for and what year?"
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a really cool thing to do at halftime. I mean, I love that idea.
Games.
And listen,
if you did it between games, did it after this, you'd have both crowds, the first game crowd and the second game crowd, and
that's right.
Have more people there, and you'd be able to do to recognize those people.
Something else, Teague, that you're intimately involved in as our creative designer. We've got we've gone through. Will and our office has gone through. We have every Toy Bowl program but one in our office. We have 1 year. It's actually my 7th grade year. The one that I had it at some point, but no longer at my mom's house. It's not in the cedar closet. It's not in a box anywhere. I've looked everywhere in her house, but because I'd love to donate that back so that it's saved, forever. But we've got we took a picture of every Toy Bowl program cover. Mm-hmm. So we want to incorporate that into some type of a layout.
We're working on that right now. We've got some cool ideas. So I'm excited to kind of share what we've got working there. But such a cool, and listen, when you talk about kind of the legacy and everything, there's been some big names that have played in the Toy Bowl. And I know we can't go through all of them, but I know the Brahms, at least Brian had played. And we're not sure. Did Jeff ever make a Toy Bowl? Assuming he probably did.
I'm assuming they did.
I think he did the Bernard that year.
Because they had to have been pretty good. We think maybe Wolford did. I mean, listen, there's a lot of guys that have gone on to play professionally that had played in the Toy Bowl. Listen,
there's a lot of great players that didn't make it too, I'm sure.
Well, but how many fathers and sons? Rick, you're one of them.
Yeah, I laugh because I played, obviously my 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, all 4 years of grade school football at St. Martha, and my 7th grade year was the year we won it. Mm-hmm. And then we got to the Toy Bowl in 8th grade and got wiped out by St. Raphael. But my son, he played 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and he won it in 7th grade. And then in 8th grade, they got wiped out. It's like, how crazy is that? And I'm sure there are many, many other examples like that, but we both won a Toy Bowl in 7th grade.
Well, I just at the game this past Sunday, 7th, 8th grade game, and who was it? St. Michael, St. Patrick were out there playing, and Greg Nord was yelling. He was sitting in the stands, and he yelled at me. He goes, "Well, this is our 4th generation."
Oh, that's
and I'm
so
going,
cool.
Hold
Fourth generation. I was thinking maybe 3 for sure, but 4, okay.
Well, see his dad, the Nord brothers.
Wow.
And Bert. And so I'm trying to think, did they play? Because they were West End people.
Right.
And, they were Flagey people. And then Greg, and then Greg's son-in-law, and their grandson now is the 4th generation inside that Toy Bowl.
Dave, do you remember any of those? There's got to be some father-sons, right?
Yeah.
At least.
Oh.
There was I don't know if Jim Baird's son and him were together that 1 year Toy Bowl or not, but they were in a bunch.
Right, yeah.
There's probably countless names. And I tell you what, Rick, if you're listening to this podcast, and if you fit in that category, and maybe you have a great story for us that, hey, listen, we're 4 generations, we're 3 generations, reach out to the CSAA, because we're trying to figure out ways to incorporate these stories into the game. So, but let us know.
Love to have that information. They can call our office, 456-2722, and Will can take that information, or they can send us an email, info@loucsaa.org, info, and we'd love to have some of that. And we're still in that creative process, right? We've got another few weeks to kind of finalize some plans to get ready for our program and our event that first weekend in November. But we'd love to have that information.
We want to know some of these stories. We'd absolutely love to know.
We did ask at our AD's meeting, Teague, for anybody that had it, and unfortunately, I got 1 or 2 responses. But they weren't. I mean, we've got a little bit of information, but we didn't get what we hoped to get. And it's not the fault of the ADs currently. They don't. Most of those guys are much younger than me, and they don't know the history. They don't know some of these. Some of them may or may not have played, but they might know people at their parish or the parish they came from, but they don't know them from the south end and the east end and the west end and the north end. So if anyone's listening, they have information, please share it with us.
So, Dave, when I was playing back in the 90s, did we ever have a heat index? Did we ever stop because it was too hot?
No.
I didn't think so. we didn't have a heat police then. All right, so favorite memories. It may have been your last one, 3 overtimes.
That was a great one. And there was a lot of good ones that you didn't think you were going to be there for Toy Bowl that year. I mean, you expected. You wanted to. You always expect to win. But then they got there. They upset a couple teams, and you didn't win it, but it was great to get there. And going back to I guess the first one was probably one of the better ones, but we had such a loaded team. It was nice, fun.
Favorite memory?
Well, I have a couple things that I could say is that I'll never forget the 6 overtime game in the 6th grade. St. Gabriel and
Mount Carmel or Barnabas?
I don't know.
How long ago was that, you think?
Well, it's St. X, so it's
okay, so somewhat recent.
All I can remember is Mike Glazer yelling at me going, give them both a trophy. Let's get out of here.
That's a good story.
Because it just went on and on.
On and on, yeah.
Gabriel won it because McGinty was over on the sideline with me, and we were worn out.
What are the overtime rules?
Well, the overtime rules is it start at the 10. If each team gets 4 plays to try to score, and then we move to the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so everybody just kept scoring.
Well, at that time, we were at the 5. We were started at the 5 and stayed at the 5, but both teams couldn't stop each other. So the next year, we changed the rule. So yeah.
So here recently, we made a change in the field size, Tom. How has that been? Has that been a good change? And by a change, we went from a 70-yard field to a 100-yard field.
Right.
And this is for 8th grade.
8th grade only.
Yeah, it's grade only. Yeah. And I think I said this when we were off camera talking. It was the width of the field. We wanted to open up the game a little bit more. We wanted to pass a little bit more. We wanted to, in the narrower field, you're kind of inside more in the passing game. So we were trying to see if all of our fields could go wider, and a couple of them could, a couple of them just couldn't.
Well, kind of landlocked, probably.
Yeah, there they are. Fence locked, landlocked, all that. So then we decided to go to the high school fields. Well, it's good, but Wayne Johnson said the thing is, now it's not special to make it to the Toy Bowl, because the special thing was, gosh, we get to go to Trinity play, but it's still special, but that was the big thing, and I think the teams really like it. I really think the teams like the 100-yard field. Now, some coaches don't like it. They like and this was going from a high school coach. When we got Catholic school kids, those kids could block the inside AB gap, and they could run through the AB gap because that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't sweep right, sweep left. It was inside game.
That's how I learned to do it.
Well, and then we've kind of gotten away from it a little bit, because the first year it scared me, because I thought that's what we were going to turn into.
Everything was going to be speed and on the sides.
That was all it was. But, we haven't got away from it all the way. We still run a little power games.
I saw some really good inside traps on Sunday.
Yeah, I did too. So,
see, let me add something else to that 100-yard
Please.
field. Look, we went back and forth on that, Tom and I did, and some of our football people for several years. And look, through the great willingness of the high schools to host, now we there's the downsides, like Wayne says, about not getting to that being a special event to play on a bigger field for the first time. But St. X and DeSales and Holy Cross and Trinity have all been huge supporters of ours, and now we get these kids get to play at all four fields during the season, and so
which is pretty cool.
It is cool. I mean, for the kids, it is. I mean, and depending on what side of town you're from, getting to go to the school you might be going to or whatever, that's cool. But it's we certainly couldn't do it without their volunteerism and their stewardship to us every single Sunday, because we play 3 games every Sunday at all 4 of those fields. So again. By the time the end of the season comes, everybody's played everywhere. So it's we've got to look at that as a positive.
Well, and listen, the setup is a little bit easier when you're just using their fields, not having to ring the temporary goalposts.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right.
I mean that apps. I mean, from a logistics standpoint, it seems like that makes a lot of sense too. Dave, I'd like to know, where do you see football now, as far as skill level, as far as coaching level, as compared to kind of your early days of coaching?
The skill level, I think it's improved. It was back when, because we had a lot of kids playing.
Mm-hmm.
Every year you'd get a few more and a few more. Their friends came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes when the guy didn't come out, their friends didn't come out. But,
Oh yeah, that's how it works.
But as far as, I haven't really seen but one game since they went to the big field. So I'm sure the talent level's still there.
Yeah.
Mainly, we just got to do a better job of getting more kids out.
Yep.
And just, I always said play everything while you're in grade school.
Absolutely.
And then,
figure out what you like.
Yeah, go for everything, and then figure it out in high school. And some are fortunate enough to be able to play a couple sports.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which is getting tougher and tougher to do in high school.
Yeah, because they start.
Well, kids are specializing
one
so much now.
too early.
It's right, and that's a whole nother topic for a whole
Yeah.
other podcast. But I was curious on your thoughts on that, Tom. All right, this one's for you. What impact do you think? And Rick, chime in here too if you have some thoughts. What impact has the Toy Bowl had on Catholic schools in general and our community here in Louisville?
Well, a friend of ours belongs to the Methodist Church on Brownsboro Road. That's all she's ever heard of is a Toy Bowl. And I said, she goes, what is the Toy Bowl really? And I said, well, it's this. It's through the Catholic school system. She goes, oh, because none of the kids here play it. And I said, well, are they Catholic? No, well, it's the Catholic Toy Bowl and football game. So, going back, I want to kind of change here a little bit. The biggest thing I've seen, and we have coaches, good coaches, and we talked about the staffs and everything, but we don't have the old David Schneidtmillers or Joe Medleys just coach without their kids around. We have to have daddy coaches. We have to have it to survive. But we don't have any of these old geezers anymore that just hang around and bring all this back knowledge that we had before. We don't see that as much. And it's hurt our program a little bit because we see guys for a couple of years, and then when their kid leaves, we see I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just that we don't have that continuity.
Stability.
Yeah.
I'm curious why that is, because it used. I listened to you guys talk earlier. It sounded like every team kind of had a guy that that was what they did. They coached that particular sport, and they were there whether they had kids or not.
Well, it's true because we go back now. The McGraths at St. Denis, Joe McGrath, he had a bunch of boys. Johnny, Kevin, all of them, and they all, they're all. Well, two of them are NFL officials, and then one of them, he's ACC official. But Joe coached forever, without his kids there.
Yeah.
Joe Moppin coached forever. And heck, I think his grandkids played at Barnabas. They played at St. Barnabas. So I don't know why that is. I mean, it is time consuming. It really is time consuming.
It's emotionally consuming too.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
is.
100%.
Yes.
You live and die by it.
Going back to his point, that was the other thing that's changed the most. You used to know every coach in the league.
Yeah.
And you knew who was going to be there. Then it started slowly, people started getting out, and it was like a whole new group came in.
Do you think it has to do with the mergers of the schools?
I think some of it is.
Because Dave's a perfect example.
Right.
So he was an Ascension guy, right?
Right.
And then he went over and was coaching kind of basically the Martha contingent because of, the mergers of the school. I would say that has to have an impact in this.
I think it has a lot because, everybody wants their guy to be
Right.
a coach. Everybody wants their guy. So,
And a lot of kids would have came out if they still had their own school, but they don't want to.
right.
We merged, you lose several.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're not playing for your colors.
Yeah.
And so you do lose some.
And that's the part, the pride in your school.
The hard part, Teague, is you go to if Central Catholic, right, which Ascension's involved
Yep,
in now, is
sure.
in a Toy Bowl, and Martha's AD is the football coordinator for that merged
Yep.
program, which is 6 or 7 schools, and they make it to a Toy Bowl. A couple years ago, Dave was coaching last year, and the old timers, the people like me, if I wasn't the executive director, would I go out to watch? My kids went through Ascension, so would I go out to watch that? And they're wearing green and white, and we were blue and gold,
Yeah.
blue and yellow. I mean,
It's different.
It's different. So you lose some of that. I mean, you see at the church picnics, you have the old timers still come back doing the beer booth and the fish booth. That's still at the parish level. So it has hurt
Right.
some, but we've got to overcome it, and we've got to overcome it because football is still the pageantry. I mean, Red Grange. I've got a poster in the office of Red Grange at a Toy Bowl parade. Bear Bryant. There's another poster in our office of Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant. think about that. The most legendary coach, maybe outside of Nick Saban, or maybe even more so than Nick Saban in college football history. Bear Bryant was the what do you call it? He was at the parade, and he was like the spokesman for the Toy Bowl one year. And I mean, Carl Schmidt had this.
Really?
Oh, we're gonna incorporate that in the toy program
That's
this year.
cool.
So there's just so much history and so much. And fast forward to today, there's the Dave Schneidtmillers of the world. There's the Thom Wachtels of the world. Without them, it doesn't get where we are. So we've got to find that new group now, and we've got them in place. We just got to keep encouraging people to stay involved, because 50 years from now, the next 75th anniversary, the 150th anniversary, we need to make sure that they have legends they can talk about from the last 75 years.
So listen, there's some positive happening. No, numbers are up, right?
Numbers are up. We're up almost 15%. Now it's we have the struggles. I mean, like your St. Matthew's Catholic. It's, they've got 40 kids, 7th, 8th grade, almost 40 kids. St. Patrick, St. Michael, their numbers are
they got
great.
a ton, right?
Yeah, we have those 3 or 4 schools, and Rick and I have kind of got it around that we need to get at least 8 teams out here. We need at least 8 teams. And we're, right now the problem is with Notre Dame, we don't have anybody closer to them to merge with them, to make their numbers go up. And not force these teams, but it highly encourage these teams to have a varsity and a JV team.
Yeah.
And that way you could have 4 varsity teams and 4 JV teams, and, keep it, because 6 teams is just not acceptable. We've got to get better than that.
Well, Rick, we'd be remiss not to talk about this, because I think it's changed a lot of what's going on at CSAA, but girls flag football has exploded. And now that all the girls are playing, I think the boys think, well, heck, I want to play football. And it's kind of brought the boys back in the fold a little bit, because they see the girls out there playing.
Yeah, look, that's the girls flag football. And look, you need less players, right? It's a flag football game. It's closer to what we have in football than the 7-on-7 level. But we've got like 38 teams in our leagues this year, and that's been 36 to 38 for the 3 years we've had it. And we have a Toy Bowl for the girls now, and that's 23 years from now, 22 years from now, when they're having the 25th anniversary, that'll be a big deal.
It will be a big deal.
It'll be a really big deal. And I think, and look, let me say this proudly: we were the first one to start that around here.
Yep.
Not as soon as some people would have liked.
Yep.
Because I was waiting on some legal issues to get rectified and some rules to be in place before we implemented it. But we were the first one, and now high schools are doing it.
Oh yeah.
So the CSAA is forward-thinking and progressive, and people can say what they want, but football is still forward-thinking and progressive. We still have our weight limits. We still have some rules to make it as a fair and even a playing field as possible, but because of the leadership of Thom Wachtel, our football is still the best around. Our coaches are still the best around, and at the girls' level, we'll still be the best there too.
I want to hear your all's thought on the girls' side, because it's pretty cool how much that has exploded.
Well, all I can say that not this past year, but the year before, and when it was at Assumption, oh my goodness, I could not believe the crowd that was there. It was unbelievable, and the skill.
Yeah, they can play.
Oh, there's some really
well
good athletes
coached.
out there.
I'll never forget, it was the year before, because this one was Sacred Heart. St. Patrick had this one girl. She's a soccer player. She was probably 6 foot tall, and she was a heck of a ball player. She quarterbacked the team. They'd get all the way down to the 10-yard line, and then he moved her to end, and
they threw it to her.
Just threw it up here, and she'd go catch it. Mike Manners was a coach, and I thought, I enjoy going and watching it. I don't see as much because I got tackle going.
Yeah. But Dave, you had 3 big-time female daughters that were big-time athletes. I would think you would have loved to have coached that.
I would have loved it, and they would have loved it. They say it now. They said, well, I wish they had that one.
Oh, heck yeah. They would have been studs.
Yeah.
Well, saying that, too, is what I don't think it'll affect the pink-white game. Now that they're going to have all these teams, I don't think it'll affect it. But
oh no, the pink-white game it's an event in Louisville.
Well, and the shame is my daughter, her year at Assumption, they were the ones that started it.
Okay,
right, and of course their volleyball coach said, "You might start it, but you're not playing."
Yeah,
So they didn't get to play.
Yeah.
So they didn't play in it, and so so I think Ron Cordes let the next year, and damn if a girl didn't blow her ACL out. And
Corner said no more anymore.
No more volleyball girls are going to play in that thing. So,
But Rick, and I'll let you tie a bow to this, the girls' flag football side of things. But man, you have to be excited where this has gone on the girls' side.
Oh yeah, look, there are challenges, and we've had to recruit referees. We had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
There were no referees in town.
Yeah, I gotta give Woody some credit on that one. Woody's
been great,
awesome.
and we've got Dave Spelker. We've got some guys that have been really, really instrumental in getting that where it is. And it's not easy, and we've had to meet with the coaches and tell them, hey, bear with us. This is a process, right? It's year 3. In year 1, we really were behind the 8 ball a little bit, but along those lines, that the flag has taken off. I hope it inspires people to keep playing football. Like Tom said, tackle football's safer than it's ever been. The equipment's better. The training is better. The coaching is better. The tackling is better. They've changed some rules. So if people are playing within the rules, it's much, much safer. And at the end of the day, I want them both to complement each other because, when we have long after my time, when we have our 100th Toy Bowl anniversary, they'll be going on year whatever 14 or 15 for flag, and we want that to be equally as prestigious as the boys.
All right, so we've gone on and on. This has been a lengthy podcast, and I can't thank you guys enough for being here. I want one more question. Rick, you've kind of done your part on this, but Dave and Tom, I'd like you guys to answer this. What sets CSAA football apart?
I'll just say that growing up in it, the coaching. Every coach that we had was very good. I mean,
dedicated.
Yeah, dedicated. And the guys at the end I had Jay Noltemeyer coached a lot, his son. And then Nick Schickel, some young guys were coming up and ready to go. But just to break down every position, the coaching all the way around.
I have to totally agree with Dave. It's, and guess what? They're all volunteers.
Oh yeah.
That's what sets Catholic school athletics different from others. They're all volunteers. So that's what it's all about.
And you have to thank all of our wives for allowing us to do that.
There's a lot of sacrifice
they can coach now too, Dave.
Yes.
There's a lot of sacrifice there.
They've learned a lot. And they come home and say, why'd you do that?
That's right.
That's right. Second guess coaching now too. Let
me add one thing to that, Teague. I think that's really important. I'm going to mention some names. Dave and Tom don't know I'm going to say this, but I want to mention some names. And as you mentioned, some of the really important parts of it. I'm going to mention some names, and again, I apologize to those I'm going to miss because these are just guys that I know personally that I have immense respect for, and I know there are many more that I don't, but these are some names I'm going to mention. Chick DeCincy, John Passafume, Steve Tompkins, Jim Gutterman, Tommy Weber, Tommy Walsh, John McGrath. Those are all referees, and without our referees, we also have the best referees in the region. I mean, Tom mentioned earlier some of the Walshes went on to do SEC football and ACC football and NFL football. Like some of these guys have gone on, and the KFOA they're not as much involved in the Toy Bowl anymore. They used to do our flags and do a lot of things, and that's evolved some, but they still come out and call our games. We're very thankful to our director now, Steve Coleman, for working with us on it. And at the end of the day, we've got great refereeing too. And yes, they miss some calls, and yes, there's some things that happen. That is part of life. But we are very blessed to have some really great referees and some legends.
Rick, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I think this has been an awesome podcast. Thank you for joining us as we dive into the history of the Toy Bowl, what makes this year's championship so special, and the lasting impact this event has had on Louisville, its players, and our Catholic community. Thank you for joining us.